The State of JS survey just dropped in February of 2026, and there's some interesting stuff about libraries and tools and all of the things that we're using every single day in our code. And today we're going to be breaking down what's interesting about the State of JS 2025. My name is Scott. I'm a developer from Denver. With me, as always, is Wes Boss. What's up, Wes?
Man, I love doing these because it's such a good read on like where devs are at, you know, what tools are they using, what frameworks are they using, what's popping, because it's one thing to like listen to like the hype circles of web development that you and I perpetuate, but it's another thing to actually like look at the raw data of like what are people actually using and what are people enjoying. What do people not like using? What has popped in the last year or so and there's so much good stuff here. So I'm excited to get in.
Yeah, me too. Where do you want to kick this off? Do we want to start on the libraries? There's the whole section on here for JavaScript features. As you mentioned when we were talking about this pre-show, it's gotten kind of less interesting. Like, oh, okay, we're still talking about nullish coalescing. Like, okay, we've been talking about that for years. It's been it's been in JavaScript forever, you know. So
JavaScript had like, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years of like major API improvements, and the actual like the language itself is starting to get pretty good, and like we certainly have had lots of new things, you know, lots of new methods added to it. There's all these like immutable methods added to arrays, but simply just like looking at the stats of these features, it seems like people are not as like dialed in on them as I think people are a bit more distracted by all the AI stuff going on right now. But that said, the libraries, the tooling, the bundlers, resources, all of those things that people are using, those have quite a bit. They're not as stagnant as the actual language features, and I think there's a lot more interesting stuff in that. So we're going to just go straight into the library stuff, and then we'll get into all the build and bundling tools.
Yeah, and so this is the change in the changed popularity over time, where there's a graph here. For people who are listening on audio, we will describe everything, but it's either way. It's whether you have used it or have not used it, whether you have negative opinions or positive opinions on it, right? And the most interesting thing about this chart is that so many of these libraries share this same backwards C shape. It looks like it's a backwards C where they start. And, you know, less people have used them, more people have used them, so it goes up a little bit and people like it. And then over time, more people have used it, or just over time, people hate it more and more and more. So it goes further and further to the left, like forming this backward C. And if you look, just about everything kind of follows that same shape, whether that's Express, React, and some of them to a much different degree. Like Webpacks is crazy. Webpacks is like way far to the negative opinions and have used territory. But what I think is interesting is the ones that don't follow this same shape, particularly down here, Solid. Now, Solid is still pretty low in terms of the have used, but Solids makes like kind of like an S, whereas people are using it. And I think the sentiment I've reached is that people are coming back to it. And generally, like we had that episode about Svelte recently, and one of the comments was like, so it's getting close to being like Solid. It's like trying to catch up to Solid now. And I think Solid does have a general sentiment of being a solid choice, right? Like a
yeah.
And I don't mean to be a dad joke about that, but I do think that it is an interesting use case for where, like, I think people are seeing that it is definitely a good choice and solve some of their React issues without being a completely different beast, like something like
you can
Svelte,
move to it pretty quickly. I feel like the people that use Solid are generally a little bit more advanced.
Yes,
and care about the nitty gritty, you know, right?
They have taste.
Most people will just kind of like default to writing React, and then once you either get really good at React or you kind of look for something else, and that's kind of where you start dipping into Vue and Svelte and whatnot. But like I feel like the folks that pick up Solid are pretty dialed in on this type of thing, and they get it.
Yeah, other ones that share a similar kind of S shape, but more higher use territories. V-test, for one. I think V-test is still on the way up. People are realizing it's so fast and wonderful. And if you're using V-test just makes sense. Playwright is one of these things that I think people were paying attention to and then maybe overswung on it a little bit. And then now with AI, people are back to using and enjoying Playwright because it's doing a lot of nice automation for them. Another one I noticed in here is Vite in general has a much larger version of this massive S shape. So what's so interesting about this is that this does typically follow a number of standard shapes. It's like the backward C where something gets popular and then everybody hates it. But then what I don't understand is why so many of them have the same S shape where they're really have positive opinions, slightly negative the previous year, and then positive the year before that, and then like the long tail of what would be the boomerang. It's almost like the boomerang is starting to happen, and then it corrected itself back to an S. This like backward C is happening, and it pulls it back. But Vite, oh my gosh, Vite is the most popular, most used tool on the planet, and I don't feel like that should be any surprise, folks. That is my personal experience. That's the way it goes.
The one interesting one that popped out to me here is the Angular. What it does is it kind of had like this survey has been around so long that they're almost at 10 years now, right? 2016, the data goes back. And it started at, I haven't used, but not a lot of people had used it, but they're very positive about it. And then it kind of slowly moved towards being more used and negative opinions. But then 2023 got positive again, swiped right back.
And then 2024 got more positive, and then 2025 got less. I don't know what to make. I'd be curious about this Angular chart if it went all the way back to 2013, where you could see like the true Angular boom, because people who started after like post React don't really understand that like everything everyone was picking
Angular
up was either
everything.
Angular or Backbone, but it was like almost Angular. Like I remember so many jobs. That was like the big thing. And then there's something like Mocha here, which is just like on consistent. It's like a straight line to the left from positive to negative. Doesn't even get higher or lower. It just gets worse reviews over time. So I thought this was interesting, specifically just because of the patterns you see in the shapes of things, that they do form this backward C shape, and then some of them form an S shape. And the only ones that really buck that trend, it's like the Angular, and Gatsby's kind of crazy. But very interesting stuff.
Really quickly, the library tier list, if you scroll down to that, they have the S, A, B, and C tier. And I don't know if there's a whole lot surprising me here, right? Like Vite, Hano, Playwright, Astro, Bun in the S tier.
I'm surprised about Astro being an S tier, not because Astro's bad, but because I often hear people say, I tried to use Astro and maybe it like didn't fit my use case. But in my experience, I really like Astro. So, but I am surprised that general sentiment is that it's so high.
I think it's the people that use Astro absolutely love it. And then I just think not enough people are using Astro for the rest of the stuff. Because if you're looking at what all of your possible options are out there, especially now that a lot of the frameworks have this whole idea of like islands and whatnot. So
I think tier list that's interesting here is that Next.js is in the C tier, which is the lowest tier. That's where I would personally put it. But like, I'm also a hater. So like, I'm surprised to see this is so low when you look at like what it's next to. It's next to Gatsby, like who's using Gatsby still? Selenium, who's using Selenium? Webpack, like Mocha, Cypress. I'm surprised Cypress is that low. It is kind of like a unique thing, but I guess most people have like jumped to Playwright as being the thing.
Yeah. Well, if you just think about like, if you look at this list and you ask people like, what was the most painful part of your career, and they probably are going to go back to like flaky Mocha tests, these annoying Cypress tests, like Angular 1, Angular's in the C tier as well, Webpack configs just constantly like breaking and not working. Gatsby has a crazy like fall from grace story, and I think it's just as people's sites got too big. That's what happened to mine, right? It just came from a beautiful static site build to like a huge pain to actually deploy. But Next as well is such a divisive framework, and also I think a lot of people who don't like React are like, they just like point at Next.js and say React bad, like Scott
But
over here.
React has 72% in the favorability score, where Next.js has 55%. So it's not just React bad.
That's true. Like, I would put myself in that category as well. So that makes sense.
I actually wrote my own bespoke React framework instead of picking up Next, just because I found it to perform better using React Router and all kinds of stuff. So I had to deal with custom doing hydration stuff. That was a lot of fun. I picked that. I was like, I'd rather hit myself in the foot with a hammer instead of picking this other tool up.
All right, next one we have here is ratios over time. The prize for the largest relative usage increase goes to vtest and Playwright. So that means like so many people are moving their testing setups over away from, what was the one before Playwright? Why am I even forgetting this?
Cypress.
No, Playwright was a fork of Puppeteer. That's what it was.
Oh, Puppeteer, yes.
Yeah, and then vtest was like, it's like Mocha compatible, right? But the biggest increases that we have here, if you look at the largest increases and the largest decreases, is obviously Vite went up, 6%. ES Build, a 6% increase as well. VTest, huge increase. Playwright, big increase. Nest.js coming in this one. I don't know anybody that uses Nest.js, and
Same.
Probably all the comments are gonna get mad at me. Not to say that people don't use it, but that's I
think it's an Angular thing. I think Angular folks use.
Oh, you're right.
Nest.
Yeah, you're right. Nest.js is very popular in Angular community. That's also the thing, is that sometimes you just aren't in the same circles as these types of things, and that's why I love this survey. So you realize, oh wow, that's a lot more popular.
Oh, yeah, I'm in a bubble for sure. And this is in usage, mind you, because this is just largest increase or decrease in usage. If we look at like awareness or interest, these things like really change substantially. So as far as usage goes, the largest decrease in these, it's mostly just ones that haven't increased. It's like there's not like a huge downturn in
nothing has like tanked here, so I don't think there's anything all that interesting there.
Yeah. Positivity, I think, is an interesting one, especially because if we looked at that previous chart where it shows over time, there's that C-shaped curve. You kind of see that exact same shape in some of these, where it's like, instead of being, it looks more like a rainbow, where, over time, these things just get less and less popular, or less and less positive sentiment there. One thing I think is interesting here is always diving into the other front-end frameworks, because, there's the big boys, there's the ones that everybody knows about. And interestingly enough, 163 people put Astro and other front-end frameworks. I don't think that really counts. To me, that's like more of a meta framework. But we do have 49 respondents who voted for Ember here. Though the one I think is the most interesting on this list is Ripple. Ripple being a new one that is not quite really out yet. You can use this thing, and I've been kind of keeping up with this.
I thought Ripple was, what Ripple was? And I've been ignoring it all this time. Ripple was like a BlackBerry tool to test like BlackBerry apps locally. That's why I've been ignoring it all the time. This is ripple-ts.com. What is this? A TypeScript UI framework?
Yeah, Ripple it's inspired by, it's an entirely unique thing. It is inspired by Svelte, Solid, and React. They have an interesting syntax. You'll recognize some of this as being like, it does feel like Svelte mixed with React. If somebody was like, let me take some of the stuff, like the way that state is being done, it's not being done through, ruins, but there is a track function, and that's, you're saying, all right, we're tracking this value. And then there's derived values. There's like some symbols because this is a compiled language. But then in terms of like how you're authoring components, you're exporting a component function kind of. So it functions, it's its own syntax. And so therefore it solves some of the issues of Svelte, like defining multiple components per file and using them like functions. And then it also solves some of the things of React, like it has by default scoped styling. It's an interesting syntax. It's an interesting language. It's still very fresh, but I'm in their Discord. I've been checking this out. I haven't gotten to use it just yet, but it does feel like there's a number of things that are nice about it. So coming in on the chart for probably the very first time with 34 respondents. And I think the people behind it are bright. So interesting to see that show up.
Next one is meta framework ratios over time. So this one is pretty clear that Next.js is still top dog here. In fact, their usage percentage went up 4%. And if you look at their interest or satisfaction, they all went down, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that's a lot of people just vibe coding stuff and it uses Next.js by default.
So if we look at usage, Astro's usage has shot up from 2021, started at number 7, has gotten all the way up to number 2. Number two. You remember Austin Powers. Astro number 2. And then if you look at awareness, Astro's still pretty low. So for usage being at number 2 and awareness is number 4, people are like, as they're becoming aware of Astro, are really liking it. Interest is number 1. Satisfaction for Astro is number 1, knocking off top dog SvelteKit. My boy, look at how they massacred my boy here. Astro has taken down SvelteKit. SvelteKit's now number 2. And then appreciation, this is interesting. What is appreciation is the gap between interest and satisfaction. So Astro's appreciation has gone down, which is interesting. It's down to number 9. So people aren't appreciating Astro. The gap between interest, so positive sentiment among people who have heard of it, and satisfaction, positive sentiment amongst people who've used it.
Interesting.
And then positivity, Astro, number 1, all the way down from number 4 in 2021 up to number 1.
What's really interesting to me here is that TanStack Start is not on this list at all. Now, granted, they took this survey probably as TanStack Start was just in beta. But if you scroll down to other meta frameworks, like what else are people using? 50% of the people that wrote something in were using TanStack Start, which is 235 respondents. And that's quite a bit out of, I think 11,000 people took it. So TanStack Start popping, absolutely popping. And then right below that is TanStack Router as well. Like a lot of people are simply just, the core of TanStack Start is it's a router, right? So that most people are simply just using the TanStack Router as their own framework.
Can I give a shout out to my 13 respondents who put in Meteor here? Shout out to those folks. There's also Vike, V-I-K-E. Never heard of this. Vike?
I'm pretty sure we had this conversation last year when we did this episode. Composable framework to build advanced applications with blazing fast, quick start, next generation. Your stack, your choice.
They nail all the words. Blazing fast, next generation, DX, unprecedented flexibility. And it looks like you bring your own stuff. You can choose your front end framework or your backend framework. It looks like, or your transport layer.
It's a Next.js Nuxt alternative. Veek getting in there. What else? Expo 11D 4% lower. I think we've said this for a couple of years now, but the static site, like the entire website being a static site generator, seems to have like fully gone away. And then that's not to say that like your site should not have static pages. I cache most of my stuff or pre-render it out as static pages, but just like buying into something where the entire thing is static, and then you realize I just need a little bit of something that's not static. I need it to be a little bit more flexible, and then you realize I probably shouldn't have done this whole thing as static.
I just need a little bit of dynamicness.
A little bit of that dynamicism, yes.
Dynamicism, yes. A little bit of that. Let's talk. I just want to hit real quick the meta framework pain point. And the highest pain point for people is excessive complexity, which, like, yeah, excessive complexity. You know, the things that we're doing, I think there's too many times where we're having to do the same exact thing over and over again. Things feel boilerplatey when, like, man, I think that simplicity is a thing we'll continue to see with new frameworks, either frameworks doing more for you, or because what, like right now, these meta frameworks, you still need to bring so much stuff to have them be like fully usable.
Yeah.
And then you have to wire that up together. And it all feels like complex. So
Using them
I'm
all
sure
together.
we'll see something there.
I think a lot of the complaints over excessive complexity have to do with individual component like caching and updating individual things. Because like in my opinion, one of the best things about React Server components in Next.js is the ability to fetch data in the component, be able to use React Suspense. Now you can use the same thing in Svelte land as well, asynchronous Svelte. I think that those are fantastic because if you have one thing on your site where it might take a little bit longer, or you want to like not cache the entire page, but you want to just cache like one piece of it. For example, like I have a footer on my website where the data in the footer is live, and I want that to continually be updated maybe every so often. But like the blog post itself doesn't need to be re-rendered every single time. And there's other parts, right? It doesn't make sense to cache at a page level. And all of the stuff around React Suspense and caching and being able to stream from the server to the client, that stuff is both fantastic, but also really hard to wrap your head around and figure out how to do it right. So I bet a lot of that complexity I bet a lot of that 14% is those people.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff in here. Do people have pain points? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's you wanted to look at backend frameworks next. Backend frameworks are interesting because, well, a lot of us are using full stack or meta frameworks now. So the folks who are running just straight up backend frameworks, it does seem like, well, not that it does seem like, it seems like by this chart, Express is still the top dog.
By far. Like,
by
Express,
far.
80%, Nest, 32%.
In usage.
Yeah. Express is such a weird one where, and like I had this myself as well, where it's just not worth. You have such a huge app, not necessarily worth, but it's such a big job to move off of the like Connect handlers, and especially when you have your auth and everything just wound into that as middlewares, it's such a big job to move that into the next generation, which is like web request, web response, which everything else uses now, right? Yeah. Thankfully, I just moved mine off of Express, and it's not like, oh, that's so much better. You know, that's the other thing as well. It's like, oh, that's nice that it's all on like a standard web request, web response. And I think that's why Express is just so big, you know, like it's not worth people's time to move off of it.
But I have noticed personally, some AI defaulting to Express for things. Yeah. And it like drives me nuts. I was doing something, and then I see it's like setting up an Express endpoint, and where I'm in the middle of a SvelteKit site. I have my agents tuned. It knows it's a SvelteKit site, and so I'm like, why the F are you doing an Express route? It's like, well, we needed a route for the web, the API. It's like, brother, you have the whole API system baked into the app. Like, why are you setting up a separate Express server? I would never ask you to do that. Hano showing up for the first time in 15%. I would love to see next year Hano shooting up and Express shooting down. Personally, that's what I'd like to see.
So I linked up this Express versus Hano, and you can kind of see every single NPM package right now is seeing like double numbers going up right now. Everything is just increasing an insane amount, and that's simply just because there's a lot more people coding right now, and there's a lot more agents just spinning stuff up, and people are just making projects left and right. So like the fact that both numbers are going up, I think is kind of a moot point, but you can see that, I don't know, Hano's is biting the heels of that. And also Hano is used in a lot of the meta frameworks. Even if you don't know that you're using Hano, it's either Nitro or Hano. Those are the two like little web servers that are sitting behind a lot of these frameworks that are being built.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There is that weird thing now we're experiencing where it's like whatever AI is suggesting is just getting shoehorned into apps.
Did you see the amplifying.ai? They had this
Yeah, I did.
They had this like stats on what Claude Code picks. So what they did is they took a whole bunch of different code examples, right? They had like a React spa, they had a backend app, I think they had a Python app, and they had a Next.js app. And then they asked it several questions of like, what should I use for styling? What should I use for components? Where should I host this? What should I use for error monitoring? And they tracked what Claude Code gave them from the different models. And it's significantly different between the latest Opus update and the ones that were Sonnet 4.5 versus Opus 4.5. Like Express just wiped off the map.
Really?
In the latest one. Prisma to Drizzle was nuts. Like it was recommending Prisma. Let's see. If you scroll down to where it says where models disagree.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry for the interruption, folks. I had a salad delivery.
Ooh.
Homemade naan bread. I got all kinds of stuff in here. My life is the best. Shout out to Courtney.
Yeah. So
cool.
Look at this. They asked, like, what ORM should I be using? Sonnet 4.5 was Prisma 79% of the time. Opus 4.5 was Drizzle 60% of the time. And then Opus 4.6, Drizzle 100% of the time. So, like, it's clear that they are training these things. Either they're taking the feedback as to like when they suggested something and then they train the model on it, being like, oh, people didn't want this. Or they're simply just like, I often wonder if they're just writing these things in.
I know,
straight into it. Because they certainly did that for getting rid of the purple, you know? In these models, they had to beat the purple out of these models. And the purple is almost entirely gone. It's been replaced with like model space fonts and putting circles around it or borders around everything. But that was unreal that this is like, there's like a Claude Code stack now where it just chooses all of the entire stack for you.
This is fascinating. We'll link this up so people can check this thing out. Like authentication, custom DIY. Like where's BetterAuth on this? Because I always do. I use BetterAuth for everything.
Yeah.
I do wonder, how much of this is just from the training versus like, how are they steering this, if at all? Really fascinating stuff. But I gotta say, shout out to Sentry. Number one in observability. It's picked the most amount of times, and I gotta say for good reason, because it's excellent. So check it out, sentry.io/syntax. Sign up to use the coupon code Tasty Treat, all lowercase, all one, get 2 months for free. I gotta say, man, Wes, speaking of observability, I've been observing my agents. So I put in, Sentry has AI monitoring, and I've rigged up my agents here. And so like, let me show you my open code. I wrote an open code extension to track my agent usage in Sentry. And so it like tells you which session specifically it is working with. It tells you the models. It talks about tool calls. It shows you your tool calls, the average speed and time of the different models. You can filter everything by all this, your requests of different types. You can get the errors coming in from the LLMs and everything in here too. So if you're doing any kind of agent work, whether that is within your app or in your process, you can actually use Sentry's AI monitoring to do that for you. It absolutely rips.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm currently working on.
What's your most common tool call?
My most common tool call. Let's see. we'll do in the last 90 days. My most common tool call is read.
Read. And bash.
Yeah.
Can you does it break out bash any further than that? Oh, it does.
Yes.
Man.
I need to get more into this data because there's so much data in here. Svelte auto fixer called 248 times, task, skill, web fetch, edit. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And again, I'm just really, you can see only like a week or two into getting this data, and then now I'm wiring up Pi because, man, I'm building a whole dang Pi orchestration setup, Wes. Like, of course, and I gotta have some observability into that. What's it doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So,
yeah. Also, if like where your money's going, right? If your tokens are being wasted on specific tool calls, you might not necessarily know, oh man, I spent $300 on like the React docs being sent with every call.
exactly. I think that's the thing I'm most excited about with this is like really having a handle on optimizing process. You know me.
All right, back to State of JS. Let's talk about testing frameworks and kind of what's being used right now. So if we go to testing tools over time and then filter for the rank just to see what's being popped up. Jest, again, still number one. These tools that are so big, sometimes you think, oh, everybody's using VTest or whatever, but these big tools take a long time to dethrone. But VTest coming in at number 3. Storybook still coming in at number 2 as well, which is impressive. And Playwright coming up. So that the whole story of the State of JS is VTest and Playwright are just absolutely climbing. Everybody's using that lately.
Yeah. Wow, those are some big climbs for Playwright. Big climbs for VTest. I think VTest is still going to keep climbing because you still have a lot of folks who aren't even on Vite, which like, I'm sorry, because it's just so wonderful. Yeah, I find this to be really interesting. Bun test showing up in here as well. Really interesting stuff.
I don't even think you don't even need to be on Vite to make VTest work.
Is that true?
Because like most people have like some expect or like Mocha, like you have some sort of unit tests, and you in many cases you can simply just swap these things over, right? You're using Jest or whatever, you can just swap over the packages and they will simply just work. I think a lot of the pain people have with Jest and whatever is that it still needs CommonJS and you're compiling your code so that it will run, and now you're testing it against like this weird compiled stage, which is not the code that's running in production, and that's a bit of a pain. So seeing people move to VTest, which is it's testing it as your code is running, not as it's running, but it's testing it as if it were bundled for production, and then also Playwright, where you're literally just testing it in the browser. Your integration testing, I think people's tests are getting in a much better shape, and honestly, I feel that as well. Between those two tools and using AI to help you write tests, I feel like the pain of testing is like 1,000 times less.
Yeah. And if we look at the pain points, number 1 being mocking, but performance being number 3, which I think those folks who have listed performance could give VTest a try. So other tools here, these are just general libraries. We have Zod up top here. So shocking amount of people still listing Lodash. Bro, 4,000 people, Lodash. I'm surprised underscore isn't on here if the Lodash is this high still.
Hold on. If we, it's number 12. Still 7% of people using underscore. And I wonder if this is just like, I've heard of that. I used that at one point, and then I'm going to put a check on there. But like, what's more interesting is which ones have gone up or down, right? Like Zod, massive 12% spike in the last year. Everybody is realizing, man, I need validation and schema for absolutely everything. I think like once everybody sort of got in, like, or was TypeScript pilled for a couple of years, they're realizing, okay, I understand that everything is fully typed and validated. Now, what else can be fully typed and validated? And that's when you get Zod pilled. Lodash,
You know what?
mine was, yeah.
You know what I find interesting here is that in a bubble moment here, effect. Only 48 respondents responded with effect, and all you hear about is effect on Twitter. And like nobody's putting effect down here. Also, archetype, folks. 48 on archetype. Archetype is sick. Y'all have to get on archetype. If you
Archetype,
like Zod,
Valibot,
you'll like archetype and Valibot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing about these things is people don't necessarily know what they don't know. That's why like Moment.js has not been a good choice for 5 years?
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's number 4. And then like date functions, number 3. That's still a good choice, but soon temporal will probably replace most of that. Lodash, there's some use cases for Lodash here and there, right? Like little utility functions, and especially you work with a lot of data. I think that there's still use case for Lodash there, but not this many people, right?
No,
people don't necessarily know the alternatives.
Yeah, I pick up like but a lot of JavaScript now. Modern JavaScript has really added
just writing a function. Modern JavaScript has most of the stuff you need.
Yeah, animations and stuff. So Chart.js has a 11-point increase. So Chart.js went from like not being on here at all. How does that make any sense?
I often wonder if some of these libraries are pushing people to vote because Chart.js has been around for a long time.
It was one of the first tutorial courses I did on Level Up Tutorials back in like 2012, 13 was Chart.js. So 3.js, shocking that it's decreased considering 3.js continues to get more impressive every single day. GSAP on here at number 5. D3 as number 3. Motion, formerly Framer Motion on here is number 4. Motion's a great library. Surprising that React Spring is still on this list because, man, React Spring wasn't even fun to use when it came out. And it's been a long time since then.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Motion nice and high up here. I wonder if we'll ever see anything different than 3.js, you know? Like, it just seems like such a powerhouse of a library. Is there any alternatives to 3.js? I guess
it's
you can
mostly
like,
things
write
built
it from
on top
scratch.
of 3.js.
Yeah, everything is like built on, like, isn't D3 built on top of 3.js?
I don't want to say
Did
yes
I
or
get
no
that
to
wrong? Oh no, I'm dumb. I was thinking about something different.
Yeah, I would say I don't think they're
D3 is
related.
a charting library.
Yeah.
It's like an SVG library.
Yeah.
All right, if we scroll down and look at utilities, like what people are using, ESLint Prettier looks like 90% people still using ESLint, 86% as Prettier. We've seen a lot of like disruption in this space in the last little bit, namely Biome and Oxlint, Ox format sort of coming out and providing compatible APIs or simple just like better APIs that are way faster. But most people still on old faithful ESLint and Prettier. But Biome 16% and then Oxlint 1%. I would have, if you were to tell me like which one is way more popular right now based on just my like ears on talking to people, I would say Oxlint, but Biome is 16 times bigger.
Yeah, Biome, I think for being first to market in that regard is being the nice alternative there.
I like
Biome.
Biome.
Biome's fine for me. I occasionally see the Biome process on my computer going absolutely apeshit. So I don't know what's going on there. So I personally been looking forward to Oxlint because I do feel like their approach is possibly a bit more possible for consistency amongst moving into different frameworks or HTML or CSS. I see it as being a better long-term option. I would have to imagine by the time that this says JS 2026 here, Oxlint will be way higher than it is in this one because I think people are going to, I think it's going to be a thing that people are going to discover this year.
If you've never heard of it, like OXC is like it's from the folks at Vite, or I think the like creator of it has joined Void Zero. And that OXC tool is like it parses and transforms. I was going to say JavaScript, but it parses and transforms languages, like JavaScript, JSX, JSON, HTML, CSS, Vue templates, all of that stuff, right? And then when you have a parser and transformer, then you can build things like a linter, like ESLint, or a formatter, like Prettier. And those are the two things. And I'm kind of glad to see this as well, because like I feel like now that most of the industry has standardized on using Vite, and now everybody's moving to using Vite test. And then the next thing is that people are going to be using the linter and formatter from that ecosystem. And then what's next? A JavaScript framework?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the reason why I prefer the OXC is like what they exactly say here is Oxlint leverages the native Go port of the TypeScript compiler, providing full TypeScript compatibility. As by contrast, Biome is to implement its own type inference instead of relying on the TypeScript compiler. To me, using the Go port of TypeScript and actually using TypeScript instead of writing your own is like, that to me seems a more scalable approach. Also, you can have plugins that are compatible with ESLint, with Oxlint. So therefore, your ecosystem is going to be larger. So Oxlint to me, very exciting option, something that I'd be definitely poised to see increase in usage. JS runtimes. Number one is obviously Node.js. For people out there, I think there's like a weird kind of like Twitter subset of like people who think that like Bun is it for everything. But Node, clearly top dog, top banana still. Browser, obviously. But then Bun being number 3 with a huge increase. I have noticed like a lot of AI bros, a lot of like non-developer types, like just talk about Bun as being the thing.
I feel the same way as well. And I love Bun. I've got many videos on Bun. I use it on a lot of my projects. And how obnoxious the Bun guys on Twitter are when you post anything about Node, it's always just use Bun, just use Bun. And it seems really big in the like student area, vibe code student area. And it's being, obviously Bun was purchased by Anthropic. Will Bun become like a runtime that, like, obviously it is right now, but like it seems like the place for Bun is people are sticking it in obviously Claude Code, right? That's what powers Claude Code. I know OpenCode used to use Bun and they swapped it out for Node just because they were having issues with Windows. But like maybe that's the move, is that Bun is just going to be this like nucleus engine that they can stick into products that get shipped.
Yeah. In my experience, I found Bun to be buggy or have issues. And like that's just my personal experience. But like using the Bun adapter for SvelteKit, like occasionally there's issues there, but using Bun for OpenClaw won't work, so you have to use PNPM or NPM and Node. Like I have hit a number of like times when Bun just doesn't work, and I don't know if that's like I'm just hitting weird edges because I'm on weird stacks or different things here and there. But I don't know if that's common. But me personally, that's one, I don't have any problems with Node. Node to me just works. Like
that was the other thing, and I think that if you take a look at Dino's at 11%, went down 1%, and I think that Dino didn't go down because Bun got more popular. I think Dino went down simply because people were fine with Node. Node added a lot of the stuff that we wanted, right? You can run TypeScript in Node without a plugin now. You can load your environmental variables in without a plugin now. Like a lot of the just like little paper cuts of Node are solved. And a lot of people were saying it's fine, it's fast enough, it works great for me, and I'm happy with it. But what else? Cloudflare Workers went up 12%. Cloudflare has had a hell of a year. Just seeing how many people, like almost nobody was using Cloudflare Workers a year ago.
Yeah.
According to the survey. When was my first Cloudflare Workers video? Because I feel like I was early. 6 years ago, I posted a video. Here's what Cloudflare Workers do. But obviously, as Cloudflare has pushed their Workers platform more into like oh, this can be used much more than just like a little middleware. Now, like you could build entire apps on it. You got databases and images, and they have email now. Like they're almost like the full stack now. So a lot more people are opting to just build straight on that. And they sorted out their like running it locally. They have this thing called the engine behind Cloudflare Workers is not Node, right? It's Node compatible. It's their own runtime. It's called Worker D. And for the longest time, still have pain points where it doesn't work exactly how you would expect it to do locally versus when you deploy it. But they've sorted out a lot of that by allowing you to run Worker D locally, and you hit those issues before you spend 3 minutes waiting for your build to go through.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Hosting, I think, is interesting. AWS is top dog for cell number 2. GitHub Pages is number 3. Okay. Netlify number 4. Cloudflare at number 5, but a massive increase. I could imagine Cloudflare
8%.
becoming an easy number 3 on this by next year. With the, I don't know. I'm surprised that Cloudflare's number 5, if we're being honest. But
I think like the people that are using GitHub Pages are doing it because they want somewhere to host their stuff for free, right?
Sure,
And maybe they're building it every single pull request. You can do that on Cloudflare now for either free or their like $5 plan will cover a lot of it. If you're like, I want to put this somewhere, but I don't feel like paying for it. That's a good spot to throw all of your like little one-off projects.
Totally.
Netlify still a huge one. Firebase. This is odd to me. Firebase was 1%, now is 21%.
Okay.
What?
That seems like something
there?
weird in the data. Not like, I don't even. I don't know. I don't necessarily understand.
I do know that like the AI does pick Firebase quite often for building apps, right? And especially if you want to build like some quick little real time app, Firebase is huge for that. And then also you can host it on Firebase. That seems crazy though.
Interesting.
We'll see.
Coolify. Number 15 on the list with 6%.
Hell yeah.
Coolify. I like Coolify. I host a lot of stuff on there.
Text editors, 84% on VS Code, 26% on Cursor. Man, that's another one that surprises me. If you were to ask me, you to ask anybody, and they say, I was on Cursor until January, and now I don't even use an editor at all. I just Cloud Code prompt in my brains and ship it. Who cares? But that does not seem to be the case here. It seems like VS Code still massive lead over Cursor.
And that's my experience. I've never really found Cursor to be that much beyond VS Code. I know you like it, and I know you have good arguments for that. But VS Code has always done the trick for me. The editor I use most these days is Zed, though, and Zed being number 5 on the list. Zed is not without its issues. You know, there's it's still very fresh. But if we're talking like performant text editors that are like a GUI based text editor, it's nice, very nice.
I was thinking about you using Zed the other day, and I thought like now's the time to switch your editor because so much is changing, right? Like a lot of people don't want to switch their editor because their ESLint and Prettier finally works when they hit save and it formats, and they don't want to fuss with it anymore. They're not going to switch, right? But now, you're switching to Oxlint or Biome. And you're using Claude Code instead of like GitHub Copilot. There's a lot of like change happening right now in the tools that you use. And when that happens, when you're using a new framework, you're using new formatters, new linters, all that type of stuff, it's not that big of a jump to also switch the editor, right? You got to get your keyboard shortcuts in place, but it's a good use case. Sublime Text, who's still using Sublime Text? 889. 8% of people still using Sublime Text. More people using Sublime Text than Windsurf. That is unreal.
I don't know anybody that uses Windsurf, but Sublime Text, sure. I do see people on Reddit being like, it just works for me. It's it's fine, it's performant, but still, that's like still using Text Wrangler in 2026.
I actually have some insights into the Sublime Text. I have a book on Sublime Text, or I did have a book and a course on Sublime Text.
You do.
And I deprecated it 3 years ago. Put a huge banner. You load the page. There's a huge overlay. This is out of date, totally deprecated. And people still close that and buy it and don't ask for a refund. I think it is a lot of Python developers who are in the like education data science space where like that whole like Python data science is like a totally different world than like a web development. So I think that's who's still using this type of stuff. But then what are they doing taking State of JS?
Yeah,
I don't know what they're doing.
I would kill to see what's in these other answers down here, because there's 179 people who've answered something that's not on here, and I'm just dying to know if anybody put Coda.
Well, you can look at the data. Query Builder. I just went through the GraphQL API for State of JS, which is sick that they give you an API. You can pull the data yourself. What do we got here? Quite a few people. 8 people using Atom. 3 people using Android Studio.
Okay.
Lots of like online Code Sandbox, Code Spaces, Notepad++. Come on. Who's still using TextMate?
That's what I'm
3
saying.
people using TextMate.
TextMate. Is there anybody put Coda? I gotta know.
Trey. Nobody put Coda.
Okay.
Quite a few people are saying Trey. Visual Studio Enterprise. VS Codium. That's like the open source fork of VS Code or the distributed version.
I'm going to respond next year to the survey saying I'm using Dreamweaver
Fleet.
just to throw off the data.
Oh, remember Fleet? We were in the beta test for that.
Oh, yeah.
Fleet was like the VS Code competitor from
IntelliJ.
WebStorm or IntelliJ?
WebStorm, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened to that? Is it people still doing that?
I asked the folks because someone that works on WebStorm was at our syntax meetup in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I was asking them about that. And the answer was, I think there's some internal confusion over what was what there. So
it's a nice looking editor, but I ain't got time for that.
We also have AI tools in here where a large amount of people, 6,000 people, put ChatGPT as number 1. And does people just plug it into ChatGPT, I guess? I would recommend that. Like, I get that's something that I'll pick up every now and again, but yeah, interesting that it's like the number 1
I think like
thing.
that one is probably number 1 because like if you're asking what AI tools do you use, people are gonna be like ChatGPT and then they insert their like Copilot 51%, Claude at 44%, and then it's interesting. This is a huge amount for Claude versus Cursor. It's almost double what Cursor usage is.
Yeah,
and this was before the January cloudification of everybody.
The cloudification, yes.
The
cloudification, the clod, yes.
But I would have thought Cursor 26%. Again, you asked me what is the entire world using? 3 months ago, Cursor. I would have said Cursor. Yeah.
No,
Unreal.
I wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't have said Cursor. I would have said Copilot. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's bagging on Copilot, but they don't realize how much of the fact that everybody was already using VS Code and GitHub, how much of an advantage they have there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, OpenCode had only 58 respondents at number 14. Doesn't even get a point as a point or 0.05 percentage points here. Okay, I gotta know. Nearly 1% of the people here put Grok. You're coding with Grok?
We did our vibe coding video, and I used Grok.
What are you doing?
It was free for like 3 or 4 months. That's probably why.
Oh my God, dude! Oh my God, that's crazy. That's shocking to me.
Give me the Grok coding model. I like they have it, I guess, but like, where's a Grok CLI?
But if there's all these other things out there that are so much better, what's possessing you to pick that?
It's free. It's because it was free. That's a guarantee. That's why. If you download, install OpenCode, it like for the longest time it defaulted to Grok because Grok was free.
Yeah,
and then
so
people were just using that for everything, and it's no longer free. So we'll see what it is next year. We almost need this, like what AI tools are using. We need this like every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Also, in like AI code generation, real quick, 0% of people said they are generating 100% of their code with AI, which is, and just the spread in general was much more comforting than I would have thought.
Yes. Yeah. The average is 26%. Or no, the average is 29%.
29%.
Yeah, 29%. 10% of folks are not using any AI. So we do get a lot of comments about people who are like, I'll never touch AI for anything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's now 10%, and it was 19% last year. Yeah, 20%. So it's gone down by half. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this get cut in half again by next year, folks.
Buckle up, folks. Cool.
Buckle up. Awards. We like to vote on these. The most adopted technology over the past year. The most adopted. So like Vite has been like the answer to all of these like every year. So you can't be continually the most adopted, right? I mean, that can't continue that. I'm going to say V-Test.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably V-Test, and then number 2 is going to be Playwright, and then it usually tells you number 3 as well. Like those, it's so clearly V and Playwright, but like what would number 3 be?
Vite?
Probably, honestly. I think it probably is. All right, 3, 2, 1. V-Test. Number 2, Playwright. Number 3, TurboPack.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense given the dominance that Next.js has, and now TurboPack is stable. So that actually makes sense. 9% increase. Highest satisfaction.
Vite.
Yeah, probably Vite. This is just the awards go to Vite. All right, 3. Oh no, should we guess second and third place? So it's kind of interesting.
I already clicked it. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I haven't looked. I'm gonna look. Playwright and Vue.
Okay, you were wrong on both. Number 2, V-Test. Number 3, Hono or Hono, however you say it.
I say every Japanese word wrong, so don't trust me.
But Vite, 98% of its users having a positive opinion about it. This is the equivalent of, what did Drake say? He said something about Kendrick just did something, let's give him a Grammy. I don't like Drake, and Kendrick deserves those Grammys. So Vite, you deserve these Grammys. I'll just say
Hono deserves those Grammys. Finally, Hono getting some love over here. I feel like we've been talking about Hono for years, and now it's getting some love here. Highest interest awarded to the technology developers are most interested in learning once they are aware of it.
This is tough. V-Test. Just
what's
because.
Something...
I'm going to say V-Test, then Astro, then Hono.
I'm going to say Playwright. Because those were the 2 big ones, right? I'm going to say Playwright. 3, 2, 1. V-Test. Number 2, Roll Down. Makes sense. That's the engine behind Vite. And then Playwright, 76% people are interested in. Most write-ins. Tan-Stack Start. FNM? Tan-Stack Start coming in at number 2. Number 1 is FNM. What's that?
I know about H&M.
Fast Node Manager. What?
Yeah. What?
Ooh. What do you use to switch your Node versions?
I use NVM and I hate it.
I use N and I love it, except I always forget what the commands are.
Yeah. My AI is always like, this is a wrong Node version. I'm like, you're using Node Verge, man. Take care of it. Brother, you can handle it.
You got to do some work, Scott.
No.
Oh, this is cool. I have never had an issue with how fast my switching of Node is. But maybe people who are like running tests against multiple versions of Node, I could see that
that's
being
enough
an
to
issue.
put it number 1 in write-ins above Tan-Stack Start.
FNM. Interesting.
FML.
Although I do have every now and then, because I have like weird issues with my Node where you switch the NPM version. Yeah. And it's like, something got wrong. You got to run this chmod 749 and fix it.
I don't know why Node
will fix it.
version managing is horrible for me. So FNM, you're on my radar starting right now. And the most commented library, which library received the most comments?
Library.
Next.js.
Yeah, definitely Next.js. And Tanstack Start second. And Astro third.
Astro second. And then it doesn't matter.
3,
Next.js.
2, 1. Next.js, 69 comments.
Webpack and React.
Webpack and React. Oh, that's true. People love bitching about those things. So that makes sense.
This is the most bitched about category here. I will say, Wes, can we just give me an award? I got 4 of these 5 correct. And the only one I didn't get right was FNM, and I got Tanstack Start as number 2. So
you have got your finger on the pulse there, Scott. I congratulate you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think I know I've done these too many times to just know that the answers to most of them are Vite and VTest. So,
well, that is State of Jazz. Props to Sasha for putting that out again. That's always super fun to go through every single year. I am going to go install FNM.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to go install FNM too. Do you have any sick picks you'd like to get through?
I got this for Christmas, and it's something that I've been wanting forever. And this is a battery-powered heat gun. So heat gun, I use quite a bit. You know, you got shrink wrap, or if you need to heat something up to take like a component off of a board, or surprisingly, one thing I use it a lot for is my wife comes home shopping and there's stickers on it, absolutely everything. And those stickers always come off brutally, right? You got to peel it and you got to get the goo gone. If you just heat them up a little bit, they come off way easier. And I always get annoyed with my heat gun because it's the same thing with the glue gun. I got a battery powered glue gun as well. It's like I'm not near an outlet and I'm doing something where I need to put heat on something. And I was like, you know what? It's not as like powerful as like a plug-in one, and it doesn't run as long, but I often don't need it to be super hot. I just need it to be like good enough, and I need it to be wireless. So I got this one. It takes DeWalt batteries. I'll link up the one I actually ended up getting, and it works awesome. It surprisingly heats up pretty quickly, and it gets hotter than I like, probably like 700-800 degrees, which is very hot.
That is very hot. I'm going to sick pick something that Amazon says I've purchased a lot of times, and I've sick picked this before, but it's been long enough here that I feel like I should mention this thing. Anker, maker of really nice stuff in general. The Anker Cube is this little cube. It's currently on sale right now. You can get it for $83, but it charges your AirPods on the side here, or the AirPods go on the side, right top here. It charges your Apple Watch, and then it does MagSafe right here, and it just plugs in with a USB-C. So it's the 3-way charger here. And man, this is something I just like. This is a gift I buy for people. Like I got my dad one for his desk. But the best part about these things is that like for travel, it shows up in this little cube. Now you got a 3-way charger that's not some like obnoxious crazy shape to fit in your luggage. It packs so nicely because it's this little cube, and since it's just USB-C, you can throw your normal any USB-C charger on this bad boy. Big fan of this device.
And it probably like does fast charging, right?
Yeah,
like it charges your phone fast. That's so key when you're traveling. You got like the mobile SIM. You know, you get an eSIM, and my battery drains when I've got the eSIM going in. When you're obviously you got maps and you're out and about, you're taking photos, and nothing is more important than you're back at the hotel for 45 minutes. You know, you gotta charge your phone as fast as possible. It's so nice having you just slap it on there. You charge your watch. That's key for traveling.
Yeah. Love this thing. So I've purchased a number of them for various folks in my life. But shout out to Anker for making a cool little cube. Wes, do you have anything else for us? Any parting thoughts? Any final words?
That's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Leave us below what your favorite thing of the year was, and we'll catch you in the next one. Subscribe, like, comment, do everything. Peace.
Peace.